People act in general upon their worldview, and their worldview rests upon what to them is the ultimate truth. Whether or not they are aware of it, the way a person looks at the world influences the way he sees things, the way he thinks, and his day-by-day behavior. This is what I call a worldview. What has produced the inhumanities we have been exploring in the previous episodes is the fact that Western society has adopted a worldview which says that reality, including people, is made up of matter, bits and pieces, things, nothing more. This is philosophic materialism, because in this view, only matter exists. Sometimes it is called naturalism, because it says no supernatural exists. This view is often labeled humanism, because it puts humanity alone at the center of things, not the Creator God. But whatever it's called, it is the underlying worldview of our society today. In this view, the universe did not get here because it was created by a supernatural God. In this view, the universe has existed forever in some form. Its present form just happened as a result of chance events. The materialistic, naturalistic, or humanistic worldview almost always has a very condescending attitude in regard to Christianity. Humanists argue that Christianity is unscientific and that it cannot be proved, that it belongs simply to the realms of faith. A good example of this attitude is a statement by Professor Leach of Cambridge University. Our idea of God is a product of history. What I now believe about the supernatural is derived from what I was taught by my parents. And what they taught me was derived from what they were taught, and so on. But such beliefs are justified by faith alone, never by reason. The humanist acts as though the advances of science and technology have made the idea of a God and creation ridiculous. This superior attitude of the humanist is very strange when one remembers that one of the outstanding marks of the second half of our century is a profound pessimism. The thinkers in our society have admitted for many years that they have no final answers. This attitude of the humanist is also strange when one considers that the humanistic consensus has given no real basis for humanity. Rather, we find that humanism has brought forth many great inhumanities. If there is no personal God, nothing beyond what our eyes can see and our hands can touch, then life becomes meaningless and terrifying. This follows on from the humanist starting point, namely that everything is just matter. In this view, men and women are by chance more complex, but they're nothing unique, nothing very special. In this worldview, there is no way of knowing that human beings have any final decisive value higher than the animals or non-living matter. The attitude toward Christianity, that Christianity has all the problems and humanism has all the answers, is quite unjustified. It was the humanists of the Enlightenment 2 centuries ago who thought that they were going to find all the answers. But time has proven this optimistic hope to be wrong. It is their descendants who have said louder and louder as the years have passed, there are no final answers. It was the humanistic worldview that brought to pass the present evaluation of human life, not overcrowding and technology, though these have played a part. It was the same worldview that gave us no clear moral limits to keep us from slipping further into a further devaluation of human life. It's naive and irresponsible to think that humanism will reverse the direction. without a firm set of principles founded upon a worldview that gives us an adequate reason for the unique value of every human being, there will not be and there cannot be an adequate resistance to this evil. It was a materialistic, humanistic worldview that brought about the inhumanity. And it will take an entirely different worldview to drive it out. Emotional uneasiness about abortion, infanticide, and euthanasia is not sufficient. In order to stand against the present devaluation of human life, people must have a worldview that gives a base for human dignity. Any worldview must answer two basic questions satisfactorily if it is to provide a real base for life and morals. The first of these is what I call the universe in its form. The second is what I call the managedness of man. By the first, we simply mean that the universe about us is like a puzzle. We see the details, and we want to know how these details fit together. So the first question to be answered is, why does the universe exist, and how did it get this way? How did it get this pattern? How did it get this form? The second question, the managedness of man, means man is basically different from other things. We can think, for example, of people's creativity, art objects, silver ornaments, technology. This is in contrast to the animals about us. People have aspirations. People aspire to real choice. People also are unique in that they verbalize. One can name other factors, but these are enough to indicate the difference of people from other things around us in the world. Therefore, the second question is, what worldview adequately explains this remarkable phenomenon that man is not a machine, but a person? First, it all boils down to the problem of knowledge. I believe that there are only two basic alternatives. First, that man attempts to find the answers to his questions alone. Second, man can seek revealed truth from God. To begin with, man himself can describe the material, but he can never define it. He can speak only in the indicative, never in the imperative. For example, he can describe what physical strength involves and how it works physiologically. But from the material universe alone, he cannot derive any idea as to how strength ought or ought not to be used. The most that can be done is to argue that certain moral systems have been worked out through the passage of time on the basis of a social contract. This is what I call the 51% view of morality, that the majority has thought this is a good way to operate, and so it becomes moral. What we observe is a relative truth based on that which may not be real truth at all. A musical ensemble, in haste, is unable to locate a pitch pipe. The closest substitute is a slide whistle.
I'm a Yankee Doodle Dandy, Yankee Doodle Doodle. There's something wrong. Pitch. I'm a Yankee Doodle Dandy, Yankee Doodle Doodle.
Rather than searching further for a real pitch pipe, each member chooses his own pitch as he sees fit.
Take it away, Bob. Sweet Adeline.
What confusion. What disaster. With this view, any action can be justified. And our own very recent history has given us appalling examples. If we add up all the humanist thinking of mankind, there would still be only limited knowledge. Truth with a capital T, explanations which would be true for all time and all people, would be impossible. What is left is relative truth, relative morality. Given time, even the certainties of our ethical systems can be undone. The Bill of Rights, the Charters of Freedom, the principles of justice, and, as in our own day, the sanctity of life, everything. It is not only the Iron Curtain countries that operate upon the basis of a relativistic morality. The West now does too. We too are dominated by the materialistic worldview. Thus we can expect the same inhumanity here. The great dilemma of those who try to live upon the basis of a materialistic worldview is that it is impossible to live consistently within it. Take Samuel Beckett, the playwright. He can say that words do not convey anything, and he can say that everything, including language, is absurd, but he must use words to write his plays, including his plays about meaninglessness. If his words did not convey meaning to his audience, he could not use words to say that words are meaningless. The truth of the matter is that anyone who rejects the Christian worldview must live in tension between his idea of reality and what reality is. The reason for this is that every individual is faced with two unchanging aspects of reality: the universe and its form, and the mannishness of man. The materialist or humanist may say that all life is relativistic and without meaning, but he lives as though it had meaning. There is difference between justice and injustice. There is a difference between cruelty and non-cruelty. There are two main alternate views to Christianity. The West has a materialistic, non-religious view. The East has a religious, immaterialistic view. That is, that matter is an illusion, and that only spirit is reality. But both are impersonal systems. That is the important point. Both in the West and East, men and women are seen as abnormal warts in an impersonal universe. In Eastern terms, it is regarded as maya, a Sanskrit word meaning illusion. In the West, as absurd machines. In both cases, there is an attempt to relieve the tension caused by believing one is nothing. On the materialistic side, Sir Julian Huxley clarified the dilemma by acknowledging, though an atheist, that man functions better if he acts as though God exists. Another tension-relieving device is putting faith in the theory of evolution. People are given an impression of progress, up from the primeval slime and the amoeba, up through the evolutionary chain, with life developing by chance, from the simple to the complex, right up to the pinnacle, man. Evolutionary theory teaches that by chance, this amazing complexity called man has been generated out of the slime. Of course, then, they say, there is progress. In this way, people are led into imagining that really the whole thing does have some purpose. This theory of evolution places men and women highest on the scale. But in the materialistic framework, the whole thing is meaningless, and the concept of higher means nothing. This concept is an illusion. Only some form of absurd, mystical jump will allow us to accept that personality comes from impersonality. If man has been kicked up out of the impersonal by chance, then those things that make him personal, hope of purpose and significance, love, notions of morality and rationality, beauty and verbal communication, are ultimately unfulfillable and are thus meaningless. This is how ridiculous the illusion of meaning or purpose derived from chance evolution is. On the other side, within Eastern thinking, attempts to relieve the tension have been made by introducing personalized gods. But they are not really personal. Their source is the impersonal everything, of which they are simply emanations. Because it has no real alternatives, the East proposes a system of endless cycles to try to give some explanation for things which exist about us. This has sometimes been likened to the ocean. The ocean casts up waves for a time, But the waves are still a part of the ocean, and then the waves pull back into the ocean and disappear. It is interesting to see that the Western materialist does exactly the same thing. He, too, tries to explain the form of the universe with a theory of endless cycles. He says that impersonal energy or matter has always existed, but has gone through endless cycles taking different forms. Both the Eastern and the Western thought put forth their ideas of endless cycles because their answers are really answers to nothing. It is helpful to see that the only alternatives intellectually to the Christian position are so full of problems that they really are non-answers. You'll find people in the West who imagine that Christianity has nothing to say about these big issues, and they discard the Bible without considering it.